What is the toughest decision you've ever had to make? I'm going to show you coming up. Decisions, decisions, decisions. So, as you can see from my intro, I'm going to be reviewing Decisions, Decisions from the House of Imaginary Authors, the American niche house created by Josh Meyer, who is the creative director, the owner, and also the perfumer for the house. Very cool. I love imaginary authors because every fragrance they have has a story, and the packaging comes in a book. And in fact, hold on a second. So I wanted to show you what the imaginary authors fragrances come in. Each one comes in a book. And the story behind each fragrance is kind of like and that's where the box or the bottle sits in. And if you go onto the website and you read about the fragrance, each fragrance tells an imaginary fictional story. It's kind of cool. I love stuff. I love literature. I love writing. I love that type of creative, artistic element to add to the fragrance, because to me, fragrance is art. It's wearable art. So to combine literary art with the fragrance is just a great concept. So anyways, that's what Josh Myers does with the House of Imaginary Authors. Another very good thing about this house as a background, the bottles are just one size. They're 50 milliliter bottles and they're $95. So this is a fragrance, a niche fragrance where you get into the niche world for less than $100. Just for me, win-win. And a big bonus for this house, and one of the reasons why I like to review them and wear them and, kind of get my nose on as many of them as I can. So this is Decisions, Decisions. This just came out. It's one of their newest releases in 2020. It is a limited edition, so they're only going to be basically a certain amount of these bottles made, and once they're made, they're going to be gone. So if you like it or you're considering buying it, I would say go ahead and do it quickly. You can do it, through their website. You can go to a place like Osme Perfumery in Miami who carries it. But if you like it, I suggest you get it. It is classified as an Oriental floral, but to me, those classifications are basically meaningless. I mean, who really cares? Does anyone out there? I got to ask this question. Does anyone actually go out and say, I like this fragrance, but it's classified as a fougere or an oriental or, this is a gourmand. I mean, everyone uses the terms, but to me, it's like music nowadays, is something rap? Is it Latin? Is it rock? Is it soul? Is it jazz? Is it fusion? I mean, so many of these things are all mixed together that I don't know. To me, those classifications are boring. So that was just a little, little editorial comment. So I'd like to put here's some comments of what you guys think about classifications, actually. So if you're watching this video, give me your feelings on classifications, whether they are important to you when you're searching out and looking for a fragrance, or whether you don't give a crap. I don't know. All right. Every bottle, and actually here, I'm going to put just a video from the store so you can see the bottle a little more closely. So go ahead and take a look.
But the opening is like very citric. It smells like lemon. Pero después, ahorita se mira, ese te llama como ya. ¿Cuánto es? No sé, pero ese que yo.
So if you saw the bottle there at the Osme, where I had been wearing it a number of times now and finally decided to review it. And all their bottles list the main notes on the back, the signature notes. And this one is no different from the other bottles. They list tuberose, sarsaparilla, geranium, labdamen, jasmine, sambac, and raspberry, and then something called sweet surprise. This is another thing that Imaginary Authors does. For those of you who don't know the house, the last note listed on all their fragrances is something that's like weird. Like on one of the fragrances, I forget which one, they list like tennis balls. Literally that tennis ball smell. Another one, they list asphalt. So they do something different for each one. Again, that's kind of cool. I like how they do that. It's just, again, gets your imagination going and makes you, thinking a little bit more about the fragrance. And anytime you can kind of use your brain to get more creative when it comes to fragrance, why not? So let's get right into this. What is the smell of this fragrance? I've been wearing this all day. I've got it right here. Okay. 2 words that to me summarize this fragrance perfectly. Root beer. Or maybe 3 words. Root beer float. Depends. This reminds me of root beer. Like a fountain soda root beer, maybe with cream, like vanilla cream in there a little bit. Vanilla is not one of the notes listed. I would not doubt it if there is vanilla in the fragrance. But this is an effervescent, bubbly root beer, spicy, almost chocolatey top. That is unique, right? Okay, I have not really smelled anything quite like that. To me, it's like if you've ever smelled Sundrunk from this line, Sundrunk from Imaginary Authors has this like orange soda feel. It reminds me of like orange Fanta or one of those, orange, basically orange sodas. This has that similar feel, but it's a root beer smell. And so, some of you are going to love that. Some of you are going to hate that. But I actually liked it. I got to say, I really like this one because this fragrance is a little bit different for me from their other fragrances they've released lately because it's a little bit darker. That root beer obviously has a dark connotation. If you saw the juice from the bottle in the video, excuse me, it is very dark. It's like a really dark brown. It looks like root beer. Seriously, root beer. Take a look at it. Look at the video. Go back. Look at it a little bit more closely. Root beer. All right? If you like root beer, you're going to love this fragrance because you're spraying on root beer. I know I've said it a lot, but I want to make the point. This is root beer. All right. And it's also kind of sweet and syrupy like root beer. And again, bubbly, spicy, effervescent. So that's the take. That lasts for a good couple hours, that top note. And as it starts to dry down, these notes that they list, to me, I got to say, they're almost useless. There's a lot going on here, and it's hard to tell. For me, this is one of those fragrances that you don't want to get bogged down in looking at the notes and trying to pick out, well, what's the raspberry and what's the, sarsaparilla. By the way, I had to look that up. Sarsaparilla is actually a cinnamon, vanilla, licorice smelling tree root. So that makes sense to me because that gives it, to me, that's what gives this fragrance that root beer float smell. Because I've never smelled it before. And this is, to my nose, the first time I've ever smelled this sarsaparilla. But this is one of those fragrances you can't, again, don't get bogged down on looking at the notes and saying, oh, I want a fragrance with this note and that note and this note. This is one you gotta smell it and just throw out all the classifications, like I told you earlier. Throw out the notes and just say, do I like this or not? And at $95 for a 50 ml bottle of niche fragrance, I think it's worth it that you can do that. You don't have to get too crazy about, what they list on the notes. But the dry down to me actually gets a little bit different. The dry down goes more into that jasmine. Jasmine is something that I pick up very strongly in fragrances. And to me, that jasmine sambac is very prevalent in the dry down. And I'm getting it right now. I've been wearing this all day. And it's not as sweet now, but it gets a little bit rough. I almost feel like this is like a kind of rugged, rough fragrance in the dry down through the heart in the middle until the end. It gets kind of rough, and it's like a rough jasmine. If you can picture that. Picture a rough jasmine. Picture jasmine plants kind of roughed up. I don't know. Just that's the connotation. Almost a little nutty element to it. And then in the final dry down, it gets into almost like a polished wood. So picture like a nice wood bench or table, or some type of piece of furniture that's been polished with like wood polish and spray. That smells kind of how it gets into in the dry down. So if you like everything I'm describing here, think of it in those terms. Again, think root beer float, think rough jasmine, think polished wood furniture. That's kind of how the dry down goes through the three, parts of the dry down. The projection is very good. I'd say it's above average projection, and sillage. Longevity, I would say, is about average. For me, it's about 6 hours on my skin. But again, at this price point, I don't argue. I reapply twice during the day, usually if I'm wearing a fragrance I really like, because I like to get a full day and I want to keep smelling, different elements of it. So there you have it. Decisions. Maybe you have a tough decision here as whether you're going to go out and get your nose on this. I highly recommend getting your nose on it. I would not say blind buy this unless, $95 to you is not a big deal. Because this is a limited edition. That's the only thing that makes this a little bit dicey for me, because it may not be around for long. And I think it's, if you like the elements I've talked about here and the fact that this is a very different smelling fragrance, even for this house, Imaginary Authors, maybe it is worth just going and pulling the trigger and buying it because it's limited edition. Anyways, love to hear what you guys think. You can always subscribe, which I truly appreciate. And you can, of course, like the video and ring the bell for notifications if you do subscribe. This is Joel the Nose. Hope everyone's doing well. I'll be back soon with another video. Talk to you guys later.